You're a successful neurosurgeon living in a beautiful London townhouse. You've got a loving lawyer wife, 2 highly talented kids, and a Saturday ahead filled with family, food, and music. Life is good. Then, on your way to pick up some fresh fish for dinner, you get into a minor car accident, and the next thing you know, a gang of thugs are standing in your living room, holding knives to your family's throats. Sounds like the plot of a psychological thriller, right? Except this isn't just any thriller. It's Ian McEwan's Saturday, published in 2005, a novel so steeped in realism that it sometimes feels like you're just following someone around for a day, until the knife comes out. So let's walk through this story, one Saturday in the life of Henry Perowne. But buckle up, because along the way we're going to encounter terrorism, anti-war protests, arguments about Saddam Hussein, failed plane landings, and a very inconvenient medical diagnosis. The novel is set on a very specific date, February 15th, 2003, the day when thousands, maybe millions of people marched across the globe protesting America's planned invasion of Iraq. For Henry Perowne, our neurosurgeon protagonist, this day begins like any other. Henry wakes up early and gazes out his window, only to see a plane attempting an emergency landing over London. Cue panic. Both Henry and his son Theo immediately suspect terrorism. After all, it's post 9/11 and everyone has terrorism on the brain. But as it turns out, no jihadists, no Qurans, no hijacking, just a distressed plane with Christian pilots who didn't care about religion at all. Crisis averted, at least for now. The media, of course, ran with the story, until they realized the passengers weren't Muslims or terrorists. Then suddenly the story was relegated to the tail end of the news. Convenient, isn't it?
Very convenient.
Back in the Perowne household, all is calm and cultured. Henry's wife Rosalind is a lawyer. His son Theo is a blues guitarist, talented and focused despite dropping out of school. And his daughter Daisy is a budding poet on the cusp of publishing her first book. Add in Rosalind's father, John Grammaticus, a fiery old poet himself, and you've got a household full of brains and creativity. The plan for the day is simple, a family reunion dinner to mend relations between Daisy and John. But of course, no good Saturday goes unpunished. So, on his way to buy fish for dinner, Henry gets into a minor traffic accident. It's nothing too serious. But it introduces him to Baxter, who's actually the leader of a gang of 3. Baxter tries to intimidate Henry, demanding cash compensation right there on the spot. But Henry, being both clever and medically trained, notices something about Baxter. He isn't just aggressive, he's actually unwell. Specifically, Henry recognizes signs of Huntington's disease, which is a neurodegenerative disorder that over time strips away both muscle coordination and mental stability. Henry cleverly uses this knowledge to wriggle out of the situation. He kind of exploits Baxter's neurological weakness, rattles him, and then just drives off. Crisis number 2 avoided, or at least that's what he thinks. Later that evening, as the Perownes gather for their much-anticipated dinner, the peace just shatters. Baxter and his pal Nigel have actually followed Henry home. They break in, hold the family at knife point, and start toying with them psychologically. Suddenly, the family's cozy dinner is replaced with raw terror. It's a chilling moment. One second they're reciting poetry and preparing dinner. The next, they're wondering if they'll live to see dessert. Eventually, though, Baxter loses control, thanks in part to his illness, and things spiral. He falls and injures himself. Ironically, it's Henry, the man he terrorized, who ends up saving his life.
You what?
Yes, you heard that right. After a man breaks into his house and threatens his wife and children, Henry still rushes him into surgery. Why? Because Henry is a neurosurgeon, and morality, or maybe professional duty, demands it.
We never met a monster you couldn't love.
The book I've just walked you through is Ian McEwan's Saturday, published in 2005. This novel doesn't just focus on domestic terror. It also plunges us into the heated debates of the Iraq War era. Henry isn't strongly pro-war or anti-war. His opinion is colored by what one of his Iraqi patients once told him about Saddam Hussein's brutality. In a fiery exchange with Daisy, Henry argues,
"But this is all speculation about the future. Why should I feel any certainty about it?" How about a short war? The UN doesn't fall apart, no famine, no refugees or invasions by neighbors, no flattened Baghdad, and fewer deaths than Saddam causes his own people in an average year. What if the Americans try to organize a democracy, pump in the billions and leave because the president wants to get himself re-elected next year? I think you'd be still against it, and you haven't told me why.
When Daisy accuses him of loving war, Henry insists,
No rational person is for war. But in 5 years we might not regret it. I'd love to see the end of Saddam. You're right, it could be a disaster. But it could be the end of a disaster and the beginning of something better.
well, as history showed us, Perowne and perhaps McEwan was dead wrong. The war dragged on far longer than 5 years. Saddam was toppled, yes, but democracy never really took root. Baghdad became a haven for al-Qaeda. More people died than under Saddam's regime, and the weapons of mass destruction, they were never found. So much for Henry's cautious optimism. Now, here's my honest take of all the McEwan novels I've read. This one ranks pretty low for me. Not because it isn't intelligent, oh, it's very intelligent, but because it's lethargic. The first 200 pages feel like you're just following Henry around on errands, listening to his thoughts, watching him read the news, perform surgeries, and argue about politics. Nothing truly happens until page 213, when the real drama, the home invasion, finally kicks in. By then, many readers might have already given up. The payoff is delayed, and the buildup can feel unnecessarily dense. Another sticking point? The technical jargon? McEwan clearly did his homework, observing neurosurgeon Neil Kitchen for 2 years while researching this novel. But you know, sometimes the detailed surgical descriptions feel less like literature and more like a medical textbook. Admirable, yes. Readable, not always. That said, Saturday does succeed as a slice of life. A meticulously crafted snapshot of one day in London, post 9/11, shadowed by war, terrorism, and moral uncertainty. McEwan captures the anxieties of that time period beautifully, even if his characters' conclusions feel misguided in hindsight. Several themes really stand out in Saturday. First, there's good and evil. The Iraq War debate becomes the backdrop for some pretty tough moral questions. Is removing Saddam an act of good, even if it unleashes chaos? And are the anti-war crowd automatically pro-Saddam? The novel never gives us easy answers. Then there's fear in media. From the false alarm about the distressed plane to the way the media just buries the story once it isn't about terrorism, McEwan explores how fear and news coverage shape public consciousness. Moral responsibility is another big one. Henry saving Baxter's life definitely raises some difficult questions. Should doctors separate their emotions from their duty? Was Henry morally stronger because he operated on his attacker? Or was he just bound by professional instinct? And then there's neurology and fate. Baxter's Huntington's disease really underscores the novel's obsession with biology, determinism, and decline. McEwan uses neurology not just as a plot device, but as a metaphor for inevitability. And finally, realism and the everyday more than anything. Saturday is an exercise in realism. McEwan zooms in on the details of ordinary life, errands, conversations, cooking, arguments, and tries to make us see the extraordinary weight of one seemingly ordinary day. Ian McEwan is often described as a realist novelist, though his works do stretch across genres. Atonement, published in 2001, blends historical fiction with metafiction, while On Chesil Beach from 2007 works as both a historical and psychological novel. Saturday, though, is realism at its purest. McEwan's meticulous style has earned him both praise and criticism. Admirers see him as a master craftsman, deeply invested in research and detail. But critics argue that his novels can be overly clinical, too bogged down in minutiae. Saturday really embodies both sides of that coin. It's precise, layered, and thought-provoking, but also sluggish and sometimes just a little too technical for its own good. So, would I recommend Saturday? Honestly, it depends. If you're already a McEwan fan, you might appreciate it for its realism, its intellectual debates, and its window into post-9/11 London. But if you're new to McEwan, this is not the place to start. Try Atonement first. It's richer, more engaging, and far less bogged down in medical jargon. As for me, I admire the ambition of Saturday, but found the execution heavy. Still, McEwan really does force us to wrestle with questions about morality, politics, fear, and human responsibility. And that, at least, makes this novel worth the discussion. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.